full fury of Hurricane Andrew continues to head toward the southeast coast of Florida this evening. Good evening, or good morning, I guess. Keith Westerlage here in the Weather Channel Forecast Center. Here's the latest radar information. We look behind me, and you can see the south coast of Florida. Here we go, West Palm Beach, MIA, that's Miami. We head down the Keys to Key West, and just between Miami and Key West to the east of there, we see a very large and powerful hurricane pushing due west now at 17 miles per hour. That means in a couple of 3 hours, the eye is likely to make landfall in this area just south of Miami with the strongest action from that eye to the north. Look at that. A due westward motion has continued for the last 3 hours. And this evening, you can see the squalls coming into the city of Miami and up the coast. And this is what it looked like just about an hour ago as tropical storm force winds continue to slam through the area. The streets, nobody's out there. They've evacuated as many as 1 million people, have evacuated hotels all the way up into Georgia. Most hotels are full, needless to say, with all those people evacuated. We want to head down to Coral Gables, Florida. The Weather Channel's Dennis Smith live there. Dennis, the weather is turning ugly.
It certainly is, Keith. We're seeing a dramatic increase in the winds over the last half-hour period since we talked to you last. We've seen the winds average out about 30 to 40 now, and probably the gusts are pushing over 65 every once in a while. We really haven't had any heavy rain yet. We keep having this wind-whipped rain, but it's not coming down in torrential amounts so far. It's just been light to moderate at times. And again, the main emphasis is wind-whipped. As you pointed out, everybody's off the streets. This is the point that they call riding out the storm. Those that were in the evacuation centers are staying there. Those that are wanting to ride out the storm and stayed in their homes are doing exactly that right now. Again, the winds are probably gusting occasionally and up to about 65, but I think they average about 30 to 40 for the most part. And so looks like the brunt is yet to come, as you've been pointing out on the radar. And by the way, if anybody's watching and they want to see us in relation to what you're showing on the radar, we're just south of that MIA. Again, I've heard that John was expecting it to see probably pass to our south here, so we may get quite a bit of rain and wind in the next couple of hours to come.
And you guys are holding up well so far?
We're doing well. The equipment's up. The power lines seem to be working fine here. We have seen some pops of blue in the distance representing some of the transformers or some of the power lines popping off, but we've been fortunate so far and we still have power here. All
right, that's Dennis Smith reporting live from Coral Gables, Florida. We will be going to Dennis as often as we possibly can this evening. As the hurricane makes landfall, of course, things will change. The weather will go downhill and it'll be difficult. 3 a.m. advisory just now coming out. It is now moving west at near 18 miles per hour, seems to be accelerating. It is currently 40 miles east of Miami, which means landfall within the next 2 hours. I'm now joined by our specialist, our hurricane specialist, John Hope. John, a major hurricane about to make landfall.
Yes, you're right. It won't be any more than 2 hours. So the weather Dennis has right there is going to get a lot worse. It's going to do that in a hurry. And certainly the full fury of the hurricane will be in there within 2 hours.
What can we expect now that the hurricane's about to make landfall? As it moves to the west coast of Florida, what can they expect?
Well, it's going to move across the state, a very narrow portion of the state, and do so pretty rapidly. And it may diminish slightly as it goes over land, but it's not going to be over there long enough to make much difference. And just as soon as it hits the Gulf of Mexico, it will gain back most of what it lost, I believe.
And then once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, it looks like it's going to hit inland someplace later this week.
Yes, I think there's not much doubt about that. Now, we haven't been able to pinpoint the spot yet, but folks up there along the northern Gulf Coast certainly want to watch this very, very carefully.
Okay, I want to go back to this radar if we could and ask you a couple of questions. Here's the eye. Why is it so bright right around the eye itself?
Okay, that is the eye wall that we see there, and that is the most devastating part of the hurricane. That's where the energy of the hurricane is really concentrated, and this is where your devastating winds are going to be. Once this goes across the state, you can sort of follow this across, and a swath like so will be the worst part of the hurricane. And this will take up the certainly up here in Miami and the southern portions of the Dade County area. We're talking about Coral Gables and Kendall and South Miami, and Key Biscayne will get, they'll be in the right front, right semicircle and get the worst part of the hurricane.
Okay, John Hope, that's our hurricane expert. Appreciate the information significantly. Again, in a couple of hours, our Hurricane Andrew will be making landfall. We will continue to update you live here at the Weather Channel. As long as we can, we will be going to Dennis Smith to get the very latest in Coral Gables. Right now, let's throw it back to the studio.